Great.
All right, again, you're all very welcome. There are a whole load of us on here. I'm just going to keep an eye on the chat and let anybody else in that's coming. So this topic tonight in this event that we have is a very, 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 very important topic. Not only is it personally important, but it's an incredibly important topic in the field at the moment. When I say field, I mean the field of therapy, the field of psychology, the field. And so, with all of that said, we are going to enter into hopefully what is a discussion, and you can use the chat. I want to give you as much as I understand about it, both professionally and personally. And I want to let you see it in action through demo, 2 particular demos tonight. So with all of that said, we probably will have about 2 hours together. So hopefully you have that time scheduled out. And if not, you can catch the end of the replay. So the demos are probably halfway through and then at the very end. So I hope you can stay with us for the gorgeous demos that brings all of the material that we're going to talk about together. So what are we talking about? We're fundamentally talking about the importance of safe embodiment and the components of safe embodiment, and why safe embodiment, no matter what you do, no matter what your modality, no matter where you come from, in terms of where you are in the field, in terms of how you practice, safe embodiment has to be at the heart of your practice. It just has to be. It cannot not be. And in this world where we're told embodiment is the key, embodiment is the key, embodiment, the body holds the score, let's get into the body has all of the details. What I am increasingly seeing is access to the body that isn't considered unsafe and can do more damage. And so I really want to slow that process down tonight, explain it in finite detail. But I want to do more than just talk at you. I want you to come with me on a bit of a journey. So I'm going to ask you loads of questions. And they're assessment questions, and they're designed for you to think about your clients in a way that will integrate this material. Because you don't want to use 2 hours of your precious, gorgeous time just listening to information. You want to integrate it, which is why we've it set up the way we do. I genuinely want to give you as much as I can, as much as I know that is inside me, so that it'll help your clients and also help you, because this work is not for the faint-hearted and it is not easy, as we all know. So where am I coming from in this world of safe embodiment? I come from obviously a clinical place, clinical practice for well over 20 years. Hard to believe, I know. I appreciate you all thinking that in your own heads. So 20 years of clinical practice, if not more at this stage, and a lived experience of trauma and its transformation. So I have 2 sides of this coin. I have the clinical side and I have the personal experience of what it takes to transform trauma. And when we talk about transformation, I'm not talking about management, I'm talking about elimination. Yeah? So that is the lens that I will deliver this from. I am happy to take any questions that you have about my process personally. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the TED Talk and have done your due diligence, and you wouldn't spend 2 hours with somebody who didn't know what they were talking about. And you have done a wee bit of background on me. But I do want to let you know that I have developed a model called the INCORE method. And this model is a model that's primarily centered around phenomenological interoception in relation to primary pain. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it fundamentally is about reaching the heart of the trauma as it was birthed in the lived, through the phenomenological lived experience. So that is also my lens. So you will hear that throughout this presentation tonight, and you'll hear the importance of it. So I'll speak about the idea of interoception, and I'll speak about the phenomenological nature of trauma, and I will speak about primary pain throughout this safe embodiment process. All of that work and that model at the moment is being put through the rigorous process of a PhD to be able to add to the field of trauma and add to the voices out there that are trying to help clients. So that's where I come from. I have that clinical experience. I'm in the process of PhD, and I have this lived experience of trauma and its transformation. And all of that begins at the starting point of safe embodiment. If you do not have safe embodiment, you do not have trauma transformation. It is that simple. And I want to kind of break that down tonight. My intention is to help you to understand the process of safe embodiment, why it's important, how it works, and give you all of the details of it. So let us start, I suppose, at the very, very beginning, and let's have a conversation about this process of embodiment and the human experience of embodiment and the human experience of embodiment that gets thwarted in trauma. And for that, I want you to write down the word SAPS, S-A-P-S, just big letters. I'm going to show you a graphic in a moment for it. S-A-P-S. We're going to take this story through this process of SAPS. What do we understand about trauma? What do we understand about what trauma does? What do we understand about what happens within us as children when we don't have the safety of processing what is happening within us? What happens within us? What happens within your client? What happened within you? When it is not safe to articulate, when it is not safe to express, when it is not safe to tell your caregiver that you're experiencing something that you don't understand, that you're experiencing something that's too big, when you're experiencing something that's too much. What is it that happens in there? What is the experience of the human condition under those circumstances? What happens when you're alone with something that is so great, so big, that you can't even allow it as an experience within the body? You can't make sense of it, you can't articulate it, and you can't allow it as an experience, a lived experience in awareness, in conscious awareness in the body. What happens? What happens to us as young people, as children, as young adults, maybe that has escaped, maybe with lovely regulated household, and we get to an age where we have these experiences and they're all too much? What is that? The first thing that happens is that first S, an unsafety. It's not safe to be in that body. The body's not safe. It isn't a sanctuary. It isn't a place that you can be in. There is a lack of safety in those experiences. And we can talk about tall T traumas and small T traumas, and we can talk about all of the nuances that come with trauma. But the first thing that we understand from the human conditions perspective, if that body data, and I want you to think about that word body data, body information, body experience, of which there are multifaceted experience internally. If that body data is overwhelming, unsafe, unregulated, misunderstood, not allowed, quash, squat, whatever that experience is, then we understand that this is not a safe process. how many of your clients understand, despite our best intentions, despite our willingness, despite our gorgeous interventions, despite our training, how many of your clients understand the unsafety of the emotion, I'm going to say emotion, but the interoceptive process in their bodies? Let me know in the chat. We are beginning this process. We're building our awareness. We're building our assessments. How many of your clients, how many of us here know that this body is not a safe place? Because that is certainly my beginning journey. This body was not safe. And more than it was not safe, it couldn't be trusted. And I couldn't trust it. Let me know in the chat if this is resonating for your own clients. Don't be shy. Because what happens is when you start to show what your experience is with your clients, your colleagues, of which there are many here, start to see themselves in your experience and know that they're not alone. Because this works lonely. And you think you're the only one experiencing the stuff you're not, but you're not. So this unsafety is evident in our clients, shows up in our clients. And I'm asking you, do you see that? Just a why or a no, just a yes or a no for me. Yeah. Yes, Pamela, I don't know what to do with my clients then. This is what we're here for, Pamela. And it's lovely to see your message. Yes, yes, Max, yes, yes, Jane, yes, good. If that is the case and it's unsafe, yeah, rings true, Mary, of course it does. If that is true for many of your clients, then the next part of the process, which is awareness, is thwarted. So S is for safety, A is for awareness. If this is an unsafe place, then your client hasn't got the capacity to bring awareness to the body, or has a thwarted capacity. And obviously that capacity is on a continuum, but we have this capacity to be in awareness of the body, to even connect. How many of our clients are disunified? Not disassociated, different conversation, different branch of the nervous system. How many of our clients have actually opted out of their body and into their head? Give me a why if you see it all the time. This body is unsafe. I cannot bring awareness to this body. I cannot bring unity. Yes, Mary, yes. Most, Lona, yeah. Yeah, yep. That's why you're here. That's why you answered the call. That's why you're thinking safe embodiment. Yes, please. If it's unsafe, then it cannot have capacity for awareness. Awareness is the first stage of embodiment, to build unity, mind and body unity. So many of our clients cannot be with the body. So what happens then is it's too unsafe to be in awareness. And the next letter is process. How can a client who finds it unsafe, can't bring awareness to what's happening to them, actually allow that emotion or that experience to rise and fall in the body? They can't. And what does the neuroscience tells us? The neuroscience says, some of the research says it takes 90 seconds to process emotion. Yes, Janice. Yeah. It takes 90 seconds to process emotion. That is perfect if you have a client who has safety and capacity for awareness to allow process. But I can tell you, it does not take 90 seconds to process emotion if that is thwarted, if the foundations of that process is thwarted. What happens is that process cannot complete itself. Does everybody get what I'm saying? That process can't complete itself. It's not safe. There's too much. The nervous system is too activated. There's no mind-body unity. There's no understanding. The system is now hijacked, and the person cannot process or allow process through the body. Yes, Luna, I love that. 90 seconds sounds short, but for clients, it'll feel like a lifetime or even death. And there's so much reasons for that. So we have this safety and process that's thwarted, this awareness of the body that there's a struggle with because I can't be with the body because it's too dangerous. And what we're expecting people to do is process through that emotion so that they come through the other end and that emotion rises and falls and they arrive back at a level of, if you like, equilibrium. In most of us as human beings, that process isn't as clean as that. There is so many difficulties in that, so many problems in that. One of the biggest problems in process is that emotions are not normally felt under, especially in trauma circumstances. Experiences in the body are not normally felt in isolation. What does that mean? So the neuroscience tells us it takes us so many seconds to move through it. But it also says, as long as you don't have any attachments to that emotion, any shame, to your point, Janice, any guilt, any self-ridicule, any loathing, any fear. So emotions for trauma survivors are seldomly felt as clean, single emotions that are allowed to rise and fall through the body and process. They're multifaceted, multi-layered. There's no trust in the system. There's no trust that we'll get through it. And what normally happens is there is no capacity to return to equilibrium. And when there's no capacity to return to an equilibrium and a sense of where you are and a groundedness in your environment, then there is no way in God's earth are you going to be able to process the material that needs process for your healing. We're going to get into this in a massive way. So what I've just described is the SAPS process: safety, awareness, processing of emotion, and a return to safety. Every human being deserves the right to that process. Most human beings have had that process thwarted, which is why your clients are in their heads, why they can't unify, why they're disunified, why they're in hyperarousal, why they cannot safely process outside the room, why they cannot safely process inside the room despite your best efforts, and I know you're efforting and doing our best to create safety. Because there has been much damage done to that process that is very natural to young children, that gets thwarted through these processes and through these experiences and through these relationships and through these trauma experiences. The more trauma, big aces, small aces, tall aces, I don't care what the trauma is or where it comes from, the more trauma, the more thwarted this process is. The more incapacities across all of these, the processes. So my first assessment to you is, our question and assessment is this: what percentage of your clients have no capacity for this process? What percentage of your clients have zero capacity to move through, be safe in their body, to bring awareness to their body, to drop into their body, use the interoceptive data, to process that without complication, to move through that process, out of that process, in regulation, in nervous system capacity, with great understanding, and move in towards a safe place where they're back in equilibrium and able to see the world exactly as it is? What percentage of your clients have the capacity to do that? Let me know in the chat. Because this is what stops trauma treatment. This is what stops proper trauma treatment. I'll wait on you, so let me know. And while I'm waiting, I'll share it. None. Brilliant, Carly. Beautiful. None. None. Great. Fantastic. Great starting point. 10%, the most experienced in there. Yes, Jennifer, well done. That's brilliant. None, William. Yeah. And I'm going to share a graphic now with the representation of that SAPS process. And 20%, very few, brilliant. 10%, brilliant, Kerry, brilliant, Pamela, brilliant. Some do, some don't. And then there's capacities within that we're going to run through today. Brilliant, absolutely. So this is your first kind of, okay, have they got this capacity? If you're doing breath work, yoga work, and or therapeutic work, there's a lot of therapists here tonight, but there are some breath work people and some yoga people. Before you would do any of that embodiment work, whatever the embodiment work looks like, can you be sure that your client can move through that SAPS process and at the end of their session can be returned to equilibrium and home? That's the question that you must answer for every single one of your clients, every single person that's in front of you, if you're in group and if you are in one-to-one. Why? Because clients who are traumatized have been traumatized. It's not safe to be in the body. And we over assume there's capacity. We run the risk of stretching them too far. We run the risk of putting them under their body when it's not safe to do so. If we don't understand this, then it really does run the risk. Okay, brilliant, fantastic. Yes, EMDR is helpful. We're not throwing any babies out with the bathwater tonight. It's all helpful. It's just what order it's helpful in. And it's just getting your head right about what methodologies or what interventions are helpful. So let me share our first graphic. And if you have any questions, I'll slow down a wee bit. That's our first half an hour over, would you believe that? I'll share this graphic. And if you have any questions, ask me in the chat. I'm happy to answer. And let's get our first graphic up. Yeah. This is just a visual representation of what I have basically story told there. Okay. Now, you can take a wee photo of that if you want. Understanding this process avoids re-traumatization in therapy. Safety, creating capacity for unity to be in the body and awareness. Process, creating capacity for interoception, we'll talk about that later, which is to allow the material to move through the body safely and to return to and create capacity for equilibrium, to return to a sense of safety. That's what we want. That's what we want to achieve. That's what we want for our clients. So we must build this process. And here's the thing. This process, when it's built appropriately and properly, serves you alongside your client. What does that mean? It means that when you can put this process in place, you're regulated. Your capacity for that client extends. We know polyvagal theory. We know attunement. We understand that a client will feel our regulation. But feeling our regulation is not enough. There has to be tangible processes at play. They build capacity, they build safety, they build awareness, they build processes, and that's what we're going to do now. But when you can build that process, what you get is that you fundamentally get clients who can safely process in the room without you worrying that they've gone too far, that you've stretched them too far, that you've put them into the trauma vortex too quick or too fast. It allows for capacity for deepening outside the room. What does that mean? Have you ever had clients who won't process anywhere else but in the room with you? No, you're not getting sucked into their dysregulation, Mary. Absolutely not. That's exactly what this process does. I'm going to break it down in detail for you now in a minute. So what it does is it helps the client process in the room safely and stops your dysregulation about how stretched they are. More than that, helps them outside the room. How many of these have difficult readiness is not the same as capacity, Janice. I love that. Readiness and capacity are two different things. Your client can be so ready, absolutely chomping at the bit to get into this work, saying, I've been around the trees, I've done all of this work, I've done all of this regulation work, let me dive in. And readiness is not the same as capacity. So this process of SAPS helps you assess capacity, because readiness and capacity aren't the same. How many clients do you have that will not process, or what percentage of clients do you have that will not process outside the room, that will not do their own work, that's too unsafe, too dysregulating? Yes, Jennifer. I mean, let me know in the chat, because I think when you let us all know, what happens is everybody can see that we're working in the same material, because people are afraid. 80% of people, Pamela, I love that, are afraid to process outside the room. That elongates the therapeutic process. It's okay. We don't want anybody forced outside the room, but we want them to be ready. We want them to feel the agency and sovereignty of their own bodies and their own process, that they can, and then they can bring material back. And that's what, if we apply this SAPS process, that's what it does. It also allows for the client to process inside the room without you efforting too far. What does that mean? We know what effort looks like, don't we? As therapists, we know what efforting looks like. Trying to get the client out of their head and into their body. Trying 100 techniques, trying 100 ways. And running in circles, and the effort and the energy that we put into it. When you work through this process, what happens is the client takes the driving seat, they take the sovereignty, they take the agency. What is the one thing that is thwarted in trauma? Sovereignty and agency. You're returning this to the client. Yeah. Beautiful, Kerry. I'm going to read this out. I see this often when using IFS. They initially can access these traumas. I can see a big pullback, a retreat in all progress. Yes, I know that they're being overwhelmed, and I have to be patient. Beautiful. Giving them control over their process is so important. Carry 100%. Absolutely brilliant. So we can drop them in very quickly with techniques, but do they have the capacity to hold that data? Probably not. And they're back out of the SAPS process and stuck probably around awareness and safety, within an ability to process what they've just discovered in their body. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Is everybody comfortable, before I show the first demo, with what I'm trying to say? I'm saying that, just to reiterate, if we create safe process, if we create this safety, this awareness, this ability to process through interception, and then this ability to come back to safety, if we can create that, then we get all of these benefits for us, which is a regulated nervous system. We're not exhausted, we're not burnt out, we're not over effort, and we're not trying too hard. We are working in line with the client, we're working in line with our sovereignty, and we're titrating, to use Levine's word, we're titrating towards material in the client's frame of reference. Can anybody tell I'm person-centered trait? Yeah, person-centered through and through, 4 years. Yeah. Yeah, we can see it now. We can see it in the demo. Beautiful, absolutely. Can you see somebody's asking, can they see the graphic before they see the demo? So I'm going to show you the graphic, and then I'm going to get the demo ready for you. Yeah, and then you will see the demo in action. Is everybody happy enough? Is anybody any questions at this stage? Yeah, okay. So let me show you the graphic again. Let us look at the demo, and we'll debrief the demo when it's done. Happy enough? Happy enough for that? Yeah? Okay. We want to create safety. We want to create capacity for unity in the body. We want to create capacity for interoception in the body, which is allows the process. And we want to create capacity for equilibrium at the other end. Let's see it in action and let's work towards how to. Yeah? So we're setting the theory up, we're going to see it in action, and then we're going to work towards how to. Happy enough? And if I've earned the right towards the end of this, I will invite you all to work with me and train with me. And I'll answer questions about that as we move forward. Okay. So before I play this gorgeous, gorgeous human being, I want us all just to have a little bit of respect, and I don't want you to record anything, either in video or in screenshots or screen grabs. This process, which is a 2-year process, was recorded, and it's very, very, very vulnerable. It's real, it's raw, it's somebody's experience of therapy live. And she's such a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful person that she wanted to give all of her hours of therapy over to train. Could you imagine having yourself live, your own therapy sessions live for everybody else to divulge? I mean, it wouldn't be for the faint-hearted, sure, it wouldn't be Linda. No chance, Mary. No chance, absolutely no chance. So I want to take a little bit, a wee breath here and just have a wee bit of unconditional positive regard, a wee bit of respect, and a breath for what we are about to be gifted and how we can learn theoretically through this person's process. And it's so gorgeous, and she's such a beautiful human being. Yeah. It's also very vulnerable for me to share because it's me and her together. Yeah. And do you remember back in the time when you were training and you had to have your video tips recorded and it was a whole handling? You're always nervous about it. So just a little bit of respect for what we're about to see. But what I want you to understand is that you're about to see somebody who has got the SAPS process down to a T. This is a client who had many, 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 many years of therapy. She's a young woman in her own right, but she's probably had about 10 years of therapy prior to this process. She was incredibly good at intellectualization, one of her defenses, actually, one of her defense mechanisms. Incredibly good at intellectualization, understood a lot of the traumas that she experienced in childhood. And a lot of the traumas would have been relational trauma. So there's developmental trauma here. And then there's complex trauma because that developmental trauma happened over a period of time. So there are some very difficult experiences that she was never, ever, ever understood intellectually what happened, had no problem with the understanding of what happened. And a lot of what happened was that she would be punished and put to a room for hours and hours on end. And whilst that's not on the ACEs list, it caused her a lot of trauma from which she understood from all of the years of therapy, but was never, ever, ever able to fully embody it. The experience of this led to, at its deepest part in the primary pain, severe hyperarousal, severe shutdown. And what you're about to see here in terms of the understanding of her process is that you're about to see the exploration, safe, embodied exploration of emptiness and what sits underneath emptiness. Has anybody any questions before I play the video? Anything you'd like me to reiterate? Anything that you'd like me to confirm? 30-year-old woman, history of complex trauma, in relationship, developmental trauma, history of hyperarousal, so disassociation, history of anxiety, history of depression, lots of physical problems, eczema, disordered eating. I think at one stage she received a diagnosis of borderline personality. And what you see is, in this demo, her exploring through the SAPS process on her own the depth of her primary pain. Are we all good? Niall good? Jennifer good? Siobhan good? Londa good? All good to go? Yeah? Okay, let's hear. Okay, good. There we are. Can everybody see? Okay. Thanks, Linda. Thank you for keeping me right.
The breathlessness, the nausea, kind of feeling like I want to rep something that my fear doesn't want me to connect to, but it's interesting to kind of see it moving down a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. It's moving down a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it brings a bit of like a bit of nausea, a bit of a yeah, it brings that kind of feeling like I want to retch. I know I've mentioned this recently, where I'm still kind of getting to know an emptiness, but the somatic sensation of it, the breathlessness, the nausea, feeling it's almost like feeling disgust, or like disgusted in myself.
Everybody see what she's trying to do. She's sitting in the emptiness. She's sitting in the somatics of the emptiness. She's sitting in the emotion of the emptiness. She's with it. All that I'm doing is just allowing her to be with it and just empathetically giving it back to her. Yeah, I can see it. And she's saying there's something below.
Like I want to scramble out of it. Like I want to like get away from it. There's something in that makes me feel really disgusted.
Wow. So in this aloneness, in this hurt, there is deep aloneness. It's not being soothed. And that brings you the emptiness. And emptiness is a pulling down, a bloated, heavy feeling. And in that, you see that you don't matter. And in that not mattering, it feels, all of this feels disgusting. Feels like it's a disgusting, heavy feeling in the body. And you've internalized this as you disgusted at myself for all of this. Now, I have put that caveat in there for all of this. I want you to qualify that for me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's right. And that's, I've got this like adult self here saying that disgust is to him. That disgust is about him.
Not about you.
But the feeling in me, because it's in me. And I feel it, and it's like there's like that. It must be me. That's that I am unlovable. It must be.
There we go.
That's
There we go. Well done, you. It's his, not yours, but you've turned it on you. Yes, well done. Well done.
Oh,
Well done.
yeah, because I think that's why anger's been coming so strongly, because like the anger is that disgust is supposed to be part of the anger of the, but having to suppress all that and swallow it and be alone with it, and I can see why I've turned that against myself, and why I don't like emptiness, because it makes me feel really hollow and lonely and disgusted, and I feel repulsed.
There we go. Repulsed yourself.
Okay. Did you see her capacity to move back and forward through that emotion? Did you see her capacity to allow it to rise and allow it to fall and allow her to make sense of what she was experiencing, although it was incredibly deep? Did you see it? Did everybody see it? I'm not panicked in that room. I'm encouraging. Do you see me encouraging? Well done, well done. Good girl, well done. Fantastic. Come on, yes. She's birthing through her. Disgust to repulse, the depth of process in her. She's not there yet, but she's about to enter into this world of loss of self. But she's titrating herself down towards it, embodied to it, given the somatics, given the emotion, given the data. That is somebody that is feeling safe enough in our relationship, safe enough in herself. Amazing. Carly, you have to see these tapes. These tapes are incredible. How, yes, Luna, it's excruciating, but she's there and she's not dysregulated and she's got capacity. Yes, there's loads, Jennifer, loads of trust, but she's trusting herself. This is the point. The point is that there is no sovereignty and agency. Now, this is 2 years of work, guys. This is a lot. Did you see her trying to get away from it? Did you see her saying, I want to get away, but I'm not? And she brought herself back and it. I didn't bring herself and it. She's saying, I want to get away. And she does this with her hands. I want to get away. And she titrates back gently towards it. I don't force her. I just step back. And I'm just her mirror and just her companion and just watching her. Now I'm watching her like a hawk. Any notion of dysregulation, we are going to regulate the hell out of that. We are going to step away from that. We are going to keep that safe always, because that's the role. So I want to show you how we get to that. But I just wanted to debrief what you saw, right? What you saw was somebody's capacity to dip into something that's incredibly excruciatingly painful, that her intention was not to go through the process of SAPS with, to move away from, not to be in awareness, not to be in process. Did you see that real pivotal part where she wants to move? And then she moves back into it and she processes it. And she's moving and this is the word phenomenological. This is why phenomenological understanding will change the world of trauma. This is not my interpretation. This is her experience. When Mate said, trauma is not what happened to us, it is what happened within us, how the hell do we access what happened inside us if we don't do it safely? She's accessing phenomenologically what happened within her in these events. She is not talking about people. She's not talking about places. She's not talking about things. She's not regurgitating stories. She's not in her head. She's in her body. And she's given me the phenomenological data of the experience of being alone. Does everybody see that? It's her way. She's in the driving seat. This is because she can safely process emotion. She trusts herself. You cannot get that level of detail if we don't have safe embodiment. How does that feel, Lise? No, she's not trying, but she was trying. Yeah. Was that helpful? Was that little demo helpful to see it in action? Yeah. Will we start to have a look at what we need to do? Will we start to have a look at this process? Good, Rona. Good. Good, Pamela. Good. Any questions before we start to see how do we do that? What has to happen for that to happen? Okay. All right. No more questions about that. All right. So the first thing that has to happen is if we go back to SAPs. In order for you to get SAPs to happen, you have to have SAPs yourself. What does that mean? It means in order for you to feel safe, you need a series of assessments. So in order for you to know and to build safety and build capacity, you need a series of assessments. The first assessment that you will need is what you are embodying to. Not all emotion is made equally. Not all body experiences are made equally. What does that mean? It means that when we are re-experiencing the body, we are re-experiencing either what we call in this method primary pain or secondary pain. Primary pain is closer to the trauma vortex. Secondary pain is further away from it. Not all bodily experiences have the same intensity. Not all bodily experiences have the same totality of experience. This is why I cringe inside myself when I see things on the internet about embodiment. And I think to myself, if you embody somebody in the heart of primary pain unknowingly because you didn't know where you were going, or they didn't know where they were going, and there was a readiness, and you drop somebody into primary pain, you had better be sure you can get them back out. So the first assessment that you must have is, what am I embodying to? And so let me show you the graphic that I think, there's two graphics that I have. Some of you will love the visual graphic and some love the analytical graphic, but I'll show you two graphics. And I want you to ask that question. On a day-to-day basis, guys, what are you embodying to? Are you embodying to the primary, or are you embodying to what's above it? Let me know in the chat and I'll share the graphics. And for anybody here that is above Miranda, brilliant. Anybody here that's breath workers? Anybody here that's yoga workers? Be careful what you're embodying to. And be careful that if you embody to some of this stuff, that you can get out of it and you can get the client out of it in regulation and equilibrium and safety. So if you think about that demo that we've just had, she's right down here in that blue area. Is that fair enough, Jennifer? You see that? She's right in here. She's not up here in triggers or presenting issues or people or places or things or functions or secondary pain. She's not even there in primary. She's down there in the pattern. You hear her talking about her pattern and this and then that and then that and then the meaning, and you see her right in the heart of that material. You don't want to drop somebody down in there that you can't bring out effectively, because that's what happens in re-traumatization. They drop too far, too fast, and do something that we think that we're helping. You do that too far, too fast, then you get that bounce back, or you get that. Sometimes you don't get re-traumatization, but sometimes what you get is, I don't know how to get out of there carefully, or I don't know how to get out of there. I don't know how to learn about the data in there, so I have to jump back up, and I have to stay in people, places, and things, and I have to stay back in stories because I don't know how to articulate it. So your first assessment, guys, that you need in order for safe embodiment is to understand what your client is bringing to you. Where are they in this presentation of pain? Are they deep, 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 deep in the heart of it? Or where are they? Now, let me see if I can find the other one. Yeah, that's the one I thought you'd like. The embodiment scale. We can drop clients and these sensations that are somatic and physical. Yeah, connected to the nervous system at any point of embodiment. We can drop them into emotions that are general. What does that mean? Well, what does general emotions mean? Well, general emotions for me are that all of my children are home at the moment. And all of them eat about 200 pounds of food a day. They're all boys. And every time I go to the kitchen, follow me here, every time I go to the kitchen, there's nothing left in the bloody fridge because they would eat you out of house and home. And I am about to sell them all off. And I'm agitated and I'm annoyed and they're general and they're everyday and they're of that stimuli. And every so often, some of them will leave one egg in case their mother needs an egg at lunchtime. But most of the time, they just eat their way through the whole thing. And I'm generally annoyed. It's general stimuli. It's general difficulty. You ask me how that feels, I can embody that in 2 seconds. Yeah, you ask me what physical sensations I've got, I can embody that. It's harder to embody secondary pain. It is very, very hard to embody primary pain, but sometimes it can be accessed and it can be accessed inadvertently. Sometimes a client can come to you and they're alive in primary pain, alive in it, and you don't understand what they're alive in. And if we cannot work with that safely, then we do not work with it. So your first assessment here has to be, the first assessment has to be, what am I embodying to? Your second assessment has to be, what are my clients' capacities for embodiment? Not their readiness, not their willingness, their capacities. I don't care they're standing on their head begging. I don't care. I want every single therapist that has ever come across a training of mine and that might choose to come train with us, every single one of them to know, don't listen to what's said, work with what presents. They're 2 different things. Client can tell you they're ready, but if they have got a low stage of process, which we'll talk about now, any of my lovely people here, person-centered trained? No. Anybody person-centered trained in any form? Yes, Pamela. Yes, Tina. Right. So any of my people that are person-centered trained will love this, because Carl Rogers, believe it or not, was kind of one of the first people, well before, we talked about phenomenological psychology, we know that, but it was one of the first people that actually gave us some idea of embodiment through the stages of process. And he basically said, you've 7 stages of process. This is your assessment. You've 7 stages of process. Stage 1 is complete and utter disunity, no embodiment, no understanding of the problem, don't care about the problem, don't want to work on the problem, no connection to the body, no connection to the issue whatsoever. Stage 2 deepens, aware of the problem that they're facing, but still external, still outside, still people, still places, still things. That gives us an indication of capacity for embodiment. Stage 3, embodiment is starting to happen. The problems are starting to become more aware, more available through the body. Clients start to talk about themselves a wee bit more, start to talk about their experience internally a wee bit more. 4, an extension of 3. More embodiment again. And then right up to 7, you see this continuum of embodiment fundamentally. I asked you in the first question, it was actually an assessment of the stages of process. And your first questions, if you go back over your first questions, was a lot of your clients are low stage processors. which immediately indicate an incapacity problem, which is the second problem, which is, if you look at SAPS, the awareness problem. Clients won't bring their awareness to their body if they're low-level processors. They just won't, they can't, they don't have the capacity to. So if you get a client in front of you, right, I want you to say to yourself, okay, what is this client bringing me? Where are we in the iceberg? Where are we on the scale? Is she bringing me primary? Is he bringing me primary? Is he bringing me secondary? Where are we? If I start to embody this process, what's the risk of dropping into primary too quick? Where am I? And that can be shown to you through the stages of process. These things line up. So these are all your assessments, right? Why do they create safety? Create safety because you'll not go too far too quick if you know where you are. You're not feeling around in the dark. You have a system where you can say, I know what's happening here. You know how above the line you are. You know, and to your words, to Miranda's beautiful word, above them, above the line. You know how above that line you are, and you know if you're moving towards it. Like in that demo, she's deep underneath that line, and I'm having to hold it, and she's holding herself in it. And it's gorgeous, and nobody's worried, and everybody's okay. Because I know her stage of process. You see her stage of process is through the roof. And what she's embodying is primary pain. And I know she's embodying the primary pain. Because the next assessment after that is this. What regulates your clients? Have you worked that out? Have you sat down and have a regulation plan? Not your regulation plan. Not what you think regulates. What you think regulates doesn't matter. Here's what I mean. Regulation's phenomenological in nature. If somebody tries to get me to regulate through box breathing, I'd likely tell them to go jump. I hate breath work. For me, I just hate it. I think it's really helpful. I think it's gorgeous. We're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but I don't like it. It doesn't work. My nervous system doesn't react to it. If you are going to your client and you know their stage of process and you know what you're embodying, you know where you are in the presentation, and you know how to regulate, how to work with them phenomenologically that works. So you're not scrambling in the room for things that help, which is dysregulating to you. We call that in the method our safety skills. There are, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, they are indirect regulation skills because they indirectly regulate the nervous system. So now we're creating safety. Not only what do they need according to them, but what resources them? Yeah, what resources them, what regulates them, what stage of process are they in, what's their hierarchy, and what's your contract like? What's your legal framework like? Do you have a contract for work? Do you work with your client every certain, do you change your contract for the specific work? So say, for example, I am knee deep with this client in primary pain. We have a contract for working in primary pain. She's agreed to work in primary pain. She knows where she's going. I'm not taking her anywhere she's not ready or has capacity for. We have a contract for that. We know what we're doing. She's bought into the process. I'm not bringing anybody anywhere without their consent or outside their frame of reference or outside their capacities. I am following, but I am not pulling. That creates immediate safety. I'm not even suggesting, as you saw in that demo, I'm just kind of, and you can see her fluidity there. You can see her. So this first foundational safety, if you like, protocols, you will run through the whole process. So safety is really, really, really important. Those basic assessments. I want to take you to another assessment. What works for me? Conscious awareness, Paulina. Thank you for your question. Bringing awareness and presence to the process works for me. It always has done, which is part of that witness consciousness business that I've got going on. So the next assessment is, what's their levels of disunity? Do you know? Is this client unified? What are they unified to? What are they not unified to? What is the dangers of unification? Because now you're going to need all your safety skills and your resourcing skills and your... I want you to understand that. And the next one that I find and that we teach incredibly strongly on, and I'm going to pull up a graphic for you now on this, is what are the levels of interoception? Because awareness of the body, of the sensations, is not full embodiment. I'm going to say that again. You can ask me any questions. Awareness of the body and of the sensations in the body is not full embodiment. Embodiment is a much more detailed process, and the interoceptive facets help us understand that incredibly well. Ask me any questions in the chat, and we'll come to that now. There we go. This is the scientific definition of, operational definition of interoception. So the facets of interoception, the first one's attention. So when a client is able to bring attention to their body, then they're in the first facet of embodiment. But the next facet is consciously reporting. Can a client report? How many clients can feel but not report? How many clients can be, you know that they're experiencing something, but they can't actually articulate it? Let me know in the chat. How many clients? How many clients? Disunity is a great word, isn't it? Non-awareness, absolutely not available to their bodies, Mary, in their head completely. If you ask them a question about their body, they wouldn't have a clue. How much awareness the client has is dependent on their stage of process panel. Let me know in the chat how many of your clients can actually, you know that they're feeling, but they can't report it. They can't say it. No, I know, Paulina. I know. Yes, yes. Most of them. Brilliant, Jennifer. Yes. And yes, Paulina, we never study this language. Many times. Yes. So they have unity. They can feel it, but it's just not safe enough to process it. It's just not safe enough to communicate it. Most of them, Carly, yes. How many of your clients are experiencing, if they have unity, if they can go past those first facets, the intensity of emotion that would light up a pain grid, that could send you to A&E for intensity? How many of us are feeling, many of your clients are feeling the absolute pain and the intensity of an experience? And where are they on that scale? And here, what we see here is we see a discrimination skill. And a discrimination skill is one of the most misunderstood skills in the field. I hear people asking clients or asking people on the internet or suggesting that you get into your body and you feel. Given what we've just talked about, that blocks this, where do you feel that is a discrimination question? First of all, have you assessed, can they feel? Can they bring attention? Have they got unity? How safe is it to bring unity? How much capacity do they have to bring awareness? What are you embodying to? So many questions here. And these are embodiment questions that add to the trauma process. Did you see that client give discrimination? Did you see what she did? Did you see how fluid she was in discrimination? Did you see that she was localizing it to a particular part of her body and part of her organ system? And she was given different variations of it. Did you see that? Did everybody see that? Yeah, she's in discrimination. She's doing that safely. She's monitoring the rise and the fall. She's monitoring her through her body. How many of your clients can get down around here at the bottom of this interception chart? Give me a percentage. That client that we just witnessed can do this perfectly without my assistance, without my drive, and she's got this capacity because we've built this capacity in her. We've taken the steps to build a capacity. Tell me in the chat how many of your clients are doing this for you, or taking the hard work, because this is what it looks like to take the hard work out of the process. Yeah, no, Carly, none. Not many of them. Yeah, this is what transforming trauma looks like here, right here. And how many can report the rise and fall, the movement, one Jane. Yeah. And I love that, right? Because we are getting some clients, but here's my prediction. This is a genuine prediction. Because of the amount of embodiment information in the field at the moment, because of the amount of practices that we've got going on, because of the amount of breath works, because of the amount of embodiment workshops, because of the amount of information, because of the amount of mindfulness projects, we are going to see a wave of embodiment without the capacity to hold it and understand it and process it. And we are already seeing this. Our team of therapists are already seeing this in clinical practice. Are you seeing it on the ground? Are you seeing this rise towards embodiment, but not really knowing what to do with it and being stuck in that process because they can't move through it? I can see you, Jennifer, nodding your head. Yeah, yeah. And this is why more than now, safe embodiment is so important, because there's so much information out there. There's so much data. There's so many invites into the body. But without the appropriate assessments that we've just mentioned, without the appropriate tools, because here's the thing. If somebody is in their body, yes, Martina, I know you're seeing it, I'm sure, and we're going to get pummeled with it. Therapists are going to get pummeled with this down the line because the wave of it is coming. And I applaud the wave. I'm delighted because we need to be more embodied. We are moving away from that Freudian understanding of just, psychoanalytical work. I love that. I love that we're moving back to what the founding fathers of phenomenological psychology are talked about. I love that. But let's do it safely. Let's not re-traumatize. Let's not re-hurt people. Let's not. Yes, the importance of doing it safely was my big stick. As you can see, is the hill that I'll die on. Yeah. Yes, Kate, I understand 100%. And even body movement can create. Yes, body work communities is it's a beautiful phrase. Okay, so let me capture what I'm saying. You need a series of assessments to be able to understand what is presenting in front of you. Let me recap those assessments. You need a hierarchy of embodiment assessment, which measures how deep this client is and how much, basically, where they're presenting at and where they can go to. You need to be able to understand the stages of process. And that's your first reading. Your client will show up with, and you'll be able to capture their stage of process. You need to be able to understand their levels of disunity. Let me recap what I meant by disunity. Disunity is the client's capacity to be in awareness of their body. If you think about the SAPS process, it's the A in SAPS. You need to be able to assess, have they got unity? Because if they've not got unity, if they haven't got the first stages of interoception, then you have to build unity. Then you need the skill for unity. You have to build unity properly. And you have to build unity in a way that builds awareness so the client does the heavy lifting. So we've got these processes. And then the last assessment, is the levels of interoception. Not only how deep can your client be plummeted into their primary pain or their trauma or wherever, or are they there? What is their experience when they're there? What's their levels of intensity? What's their levels of discrimination? What's their process in that? Can you tell me in the chat? Yes, Jane. Yes, I'm coming to that. I appreciate your point, but Jane's saying we need to be able to do this for ourselves as therapists in a session. Also, 100%. We advocate all the time for our own internal process. And I'll talk when I'm introducing how to work with me after this. I'll talk a wee bit about that. What does those levels of assessment do for you? Even though you don't probably understand the details of them and we're only running through them. Well, what if you understood them and had them, what would they do for you? How would they help you? Would they let you take a breath? Tell me how you think they would help you in the chat. Yes, Pamela, confidence. That's what I need. Because what does confidence do? Confidence regulates you. Confidence means that you'll not go too far, too fast. Confidence means that you know where a client is. Yeah, confidence means you can create more safety, which creates more SAPs. Yeah, anybody else want to throw something in there for me? You'd slow down. You'd feel more competent. You'd respect for the process and for the resistance. We're coming to resistance now, Paulina. Well seen. You'd feel secure. Yeah, you keep yourself and your client safe, Carly. Look, I will speak as a client, not as a creator of a model or not as a therapist. I wasn't afforded this process. I wasn't afforded this. And the reawakening of my trauma nearly killed me. Because I was not afforded this process. This is why I'm passionate. And all of you who know me and who have heard this story 100 times, I am sorry, not sorry. Because it gives you an indication of why I'm so passionate. I went from complete and utter bypassing all of the trauma because it was far too great and far too big, to birthing a child at the age of 25. Having had buried every ace, and I had nearly all of the aces, buried, disunified from my body completely because this body was far too safe. And once that child was birthed, alongside the birthing of that child came all the embodied material of that trauma. Overnight. Pummeled through me. My nervous system couldn't hold it. My mind couldn't hold it. I was, I'd say, very close to a complete and utter breakdown. And nobody could understand what was happening. I wasn't afforded a gentle ride-in. I wasn't afforded a beautiful, safe process through. And that for me is why I do what I do and why I stay in this place. I wasn't afforded. It was so painful, so difficult, so unbelievably. And I want every single person that ever wants to and is contracting for primary pain to have this safe process to move through, so they can bring awareness, so they can process what they need to process and the detail that they need to process, so they can return to equilibrium and reconsolidate this trauma. And so no matter where you're coming from here, whether you're coming from the breathwork community, or whether you're coming from the bodywork community, or whether you're coming from, which is breathwork, or whether you're coming from the therapeutic community, doesn't matter what community, we all have a duty of care to keep an eye on the safe process of emotion or embodiment for our clients. Doesn't matter. And so I love that we're getting here. Now, what skills? So if we've got those assessments, and those assessments can keep us a wee bit safe, and we'll not go too far and we'll not go too fast, what skills do we need? The first skill that you'll ever need, and sets of skills that you'll ever need, is safety skills. Yes, Paulina, psychosis out of nowhere, 100%. And then that's medicalized, and we have a whole other conversation about that. So we need safety skills. So we need to be able to have a dearth of safety skills that works for the client. And those safety skills need to be on the hyper and hypoarousal side. And you need all of those safety skills to bring to your client. So you need all your assessment skills, and you need all your safety skills, which is beautiful. And you need all your safety skills for yourself too, so that you can regulate yourself. To whose point? Can I remember whose point it was? To Jane's point, right? So you need to be able to integrate all of those safety skills to yourself, regulation skills. So we call them safety skills because they're safety skills. You need resourcing skills. So we need to know what resources, we need to know what alivens, we need to know what calms, we need this body of resourcing that we don't dictate, that we work phenomenologically, but we have this toolkit that we can say to the client, is any of these fit? Resourcing skills, safety skills. And they all create safety, right? But they're not enough for process. They're not enough for awareness, and they're not enough for process. The next set of skills that you need for the A and the P in SAPS is you need unity skills. You need these incredible unity skills that reunify the mind and the body safely, that bring the client safely back into the body, that titrate the client safely back into the sovereign data in the body. And you need a wealth of safety skills. Unity skills. Now, the problem with unity skills is that you need to decipher between what is unity skills and what is regulation skills, and how do they differ, and do they cross over? Yes, Mary, great point. Absolutely great point. I would know what what skills my client needed to work on first and discuss them. Absolutely, as part of your contract, Mary. You see, it's perfect. That's your contract and getting ready to contract. That's really good work already. So let's have a wee look at all of the unity skills that are out there, and let's have just a week discussion about what creates unity and what creates safety and how they cross over, because this is very important. When you're asking a client to get into their body, when you're asking a client to be in awareness of their body, what skills are you using to do that? What is your go-to? What is your interventions that you're using? If you're asking a client to embody or to be in awareness of their body, what are your skills? What is your interventions that you're using? Let me know in the chat, and then we'll have a discussion about it. Is it body scans? Is it basic awareness? Mindfulness, body scans, Mary. Yeah. Okay. So you're starting slow. You're starting with body scans, polyvagal informed pie charts. Yes, so psychoeducation. Yes, so psychoeducation sits outside and begins that process of unity. So you're giving them information. How many of you use psychoeducation here? Hands-on body mapping, restoring that. Beautiful, beautiful. Using parts work. Okay. Restoring natural breath. Okay. All right. Body boundaries, length, width. Beautiful, Jane. Depth of body. So do you see the depth of unity skills that we've got, and the width of them, and the variation of them? Havening technique, another. Return to the body. Can also be a return to the body, can also be regulation. Some of these will cross over. Some of them will regulate. Some of them will ground. Some of them will return the nervous system and to that lovely rest and digest. Some of them will awaken the body. Some of them will bring awareness to the body. You need to know the difference. You need to know what your skills are doing and in what order they're doing. Yeah, Luna, beautiful. Many still ask, where do you feel that in the body? And people don't have a clue. No, they don't, because they don't have a clue, because they haven't got the safety or the awareness to be able to process that. Those two first facets of SAPS is not in play. So this is just, it's not exhaustive by any means, but it gives us an idea. Methods for embodiment. So somatic experiencing, nervous system regulation, movement-based expressive modalities. Anybody use movement-based here? Yeah, Jennifer? Yeah, a little bit. You'll get somebody to move. Yeah. Tension release, discharge. Okay, mindful movement and body presence. Beautiful. Trauma-sensitive yoga. Again, using interoception. So these are all different types of embodiment. And methods for embodiment are fundamentally either unity skills in that they build awareness of the body, and regulation skills in that they return a sense of rest and digest to the body. Sometimes they're both. Yeah. So you need a list of these, and you need to understand what your clients will actually, whether it creates regulation for the client or whether it deepens the client's awareness. Then the other questions is this, right? Walking, beautiful now, beautiful, yes. Dance movement therapist, yes, Jane, right? Beautiful, right? The other question then that you have is, if you are working in trauma, if you are working in trauma, if you are working in the heart of trauma in primary pain and you're a therapist, do you have the skill, which is an interoceptive skill of the interoceptive facets, which is an advanced skill, an advanced embodiment skill? Can you build that? Because that's what you saw in the demo. From a therapeutic perspective, what you saw in the demo is somebody who has interoceptive skills. Not only do they have unity skills, so they can bring awareness to their body and they can regulate their body if they need to, but they have interoceptive skills. That gives deeper access in a safe way. Do you see the distinction between basic unity and interoception as a unity skill? Does everybody see that? What's BLS, Janice? Let me know what that is. I'd love to know what that is. Does everybody see the difference? I'm going to ask that question again. Does everybody see the difference between basic embodiment skills that create awareness and these interoceptive skills that deepen awareness and deepen sovereignty and deepen agency. And you get to choose what you're going to work with. You get to choose that. If you're in body work, then you don't need that skill of interception. But if you're in therapy, yes, we do need to build those interceptive skills. Yes, beautiful. Thank you. No worries. No, that's lovely. Tapping, talking, bilateral stimulation. Yes, which is also part of EMDR. Thank you so much for clarifying that, Janice. So what I'm basically painting a picture of, in order to help a client move through the SAPS process, we need all of these assessments so that we don't go too far, too fast, too quick. We know what we're dealing with, and then we can start to handpick with the client in mind what the client needs to move them along their process in line with their contract. If a client comes to you and says to you, listen, Mary, I have been around the houses. I have been to 5,000 therapists. I have trauma. It's trapped in my body. I've done all the talking you want to talk about. I understand it completely. Then first of all, and they say, look, I can touch it. I can get an awareness in my body. I can touch it, right? I know it's there, but I can't deepen into it. I just can't get it. That client, according to our assessments, is a high level of process. Would everybody agree? High stage of process is in the body, is in awareness, but doesn't have enough safety to go deeper. Everybody agree? High stage of process wants to touch what? Wants to touch primary pain. Wants you to take her there, Mary. She's saying, right, let's go. At this stage, you know she's a higher stage of process, right? You know that she's wanting to work in primary, but she's not yet embodied to it. But you do not know what her safety mechanisms are. You do not know if it's safe to do that. You don't know how much interoceptive capacity she has to drop in. And you do not know at this stage how to bring her through that process and make sure that she has. So now your job is to look across your skills and say, we'll need to do this, we'll need to do this, we'll need to do A, we'll need to build unity, we'll need to check for interoceptive capacities, but you've got a body of tools that you can work with this client very safely on. And that's what creates SAPS. That's what then helps the client and us move to Jane's point, to move from this stuck, unsafe process of embodiment to safely bringing awareness to the body, allowing the process, and then moving into a state of equilibrium where you can be back in the room, back in your sense of self, back in your future. Your future pacing is fine. You're not worried about it coming back up. You're not worried about being left alone with it. That's all of those things together is exactly what we teach. All right. But before I get into that, can I show you another demo? Right. I want you to notice the difference in the timestamps, right? So the last demo that I showed you, was further down the process. So it's about 2 years in. This demo is at the beginning of the process, right? But this demo is actually more important than the demo that I showed you, because this demo is the client starting. Hi, Liz, good to see you. This demo is the client starting the process of safe embodiment. You'll notice the difference in the background. You'll notice the difference in me. You'll notice the difference in her. And she begins this process by explaining that we've had a 5-week break. And she begins to talk about this 5-week break, and she's got so much to tell me about this 5-week break. I haven't heard from her in that 5-week break, so there has been no communication. I think she was on holidays, and then I was on holidays, and I was on holidays for 2, and she was on holidays for 2, and so there was this kind of long break. So it wasn't a decided break or a chosen break in therapeutic process for any other reason than just timings. And this client shows the example of the 6 months before that, all of this work coming to pass. So all of these unity skills coming to pass, all of these safety skills, all of our understands. So she comes back and now she's reporting second facet of interception. She's self-reporting her experience of her awareness. Anybody, any clarifying questions before we get into it? So remember, we're talking about an earlier process. And we're talking about the beginning of the SAPS process for her. The first video was her deep in process and fluid and moving through it beautifully down in the heart of it. Where do you see this process? Leona, what have we like for time? Are we all right? We all good?
About 30 minutes left.
All right, thank you. Oh no. La 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 la. Doesn't want to play it for us. What do we see?
Yeah, makes sense. Lots happened.
Yes,
Over
lots
this
has
period.
right, lots have happened.
We're about 5 weeks without sex.
Right. So there's been, I think, just to really summarize, so I can get as much as I can in today. Although that's okay if not, because I guess I'm just gonna bring what I think is important. But
Okay, good.
when we had time away, there was a lot of, again, I'm watching for grief, I'm watching for disconnection, I'm watching for loss, and when I say that, I mean I'm just more aware of it. So it's like before it would be right at the beginning of that anxiety pattern, and it'd be like, whether now it's like, okay, what is this about? Yeah, it's clearly about that. I can see that's that. And it's so that's sped everything up, and that's great.
Great.
But just
Did everybody hear what she said? Do you hear her clarity in her process? Before, I would have been all in the anxiety because I couldn't feel any of it. But now I kind of know it's grief and I kind of know it's loss, and she's in awareness and she's identifying and it's loose. Do you see it? Do you see that she doesn't have the same depth at this presentation that she had in the other interceptive depth? She's in awareness. She's understood very early stages of embodiment, very kind of early stages. Watch what happens.
Just the context, we went away to Poland for Christmas, to the Krakow Christmas markets, which was lovely, but with 10 of us from my family, so it was just a lot, and kind of coming back from that, it took a lot out of me and my partner. I mean, we got ill, we were burnt out. You could tell that my ex was so bad, and it was just really emotional and stuff. But most of that was for me about the fact that it's not like the family that I'd hoped for and the life I want, and so all that grief and that was.
Do you hear her talking about people, places, and things? Do you hear her stage of process is on the lower end of the scale here? You see how she's filling in the gaps. She's telling, you see their stage of process. So we were assessing her here. She's talking about a stage of process. She's not really talking about primary pain. She's talking about burnout. She's talking about secondary. You see, if we were to use our assessment tools here now, do you see how the difference in her process from the last time to this time through that process of assessments? Does everybody see that? You hear the difference in her now through a new lens.
All coming through. Why can't things be different? And but that was fine. What was really interesting and quite incredible, now I'm looking back at this journal, is now I can't remember what triggered this. I think it was all just a build up of me keeping everything in and traveling and etc. And we came home, and I wrote this in December, but I've never been this deep before, Shauna. It was so intense, and
I have never been this deep before, Shauna. What is she telling you? Tell me in the chat. What is she telling you? Now after an hour and a half from me, what is she saying? Yes, Alicia, love that. Yes. What is she telling you? I've never been this deep before. What might we be looking at here? Where might we be moving in terms of embodiment? Yes, Mary. Game over, Mary. My work here is finished. If you've got that, we're done. Right? Yes, Carly. Yes, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful people, beautiful. Our work is finished. The workshop has done its job. If you've got that, we're done. Honest to God in heaven. I feel like a proud mammy. I'm delighted. Absolutely delighted. Right, let's listen. Okay, delighted. Brilliant.
I need the words to describe. I need to really capture this, but basically, I was on my bed and I was feeling really emotional, and then my partner came up, and for me, if I'm emotional in my bed, I kind of deal with a lot of this alone. So a lot of it gets suppressed still. A lot of it doesn't really come out. Anyway, my partner came to sit with me, and he was like, "Look, I can see you're not good, and let's talk about this." And it wasn't even really to talk, it was just to cry it out. But when, just going back there now in my mind, because it was really intense, but I dropped into something that I feel like that we've been working towards. And I
dropped into something I feel like we've been working towards. There is the process in action. We'd been working towards something. We had a break for 5 weeks. She wasn't in the heart of it.
I mean, this is nearly 4 or 5 weeks ago now, so I'm trying to really go back from these notes in memory, but and what the body was doing. But it was like, you know, that imagery I talked about seeing myself in the dark, alone, curled up, and I'm like seeing myself as a child in this place, and I'm looking at her. And so this experience over Christmas, I was the child.
Did you hear what she said? Do you know the image we've talked about? Do you know the image I know? Do you know the image I remember? Do you know the image I understand? Do you know that image that me and you have talked about? Do you know where she's going, don't you? She's no longer talking about it. She's no longer intellectualizing it. What do you say?
In the blackness, I was in the abyss. I was curled up in this black space, and it was me as a child, somewhere maybe between 5 and 7. I'm not sure, 4, 7, something like that. But I just remember thinking, "Oh my God, I'm in it. I'm not away from it. I'm here. I'm in it." And it was so surreal. It was I think the reason I'm getting emotional is just because I'm connecting back to that material. But it was I wrote here, it was like an exorcism. Yes. The experience was so I've never experienced anything like it. But the pain, and I could feel in my hips and my belly and my tummy, and kind of at the very depth of me, where I'm holding a lot of this pain. It was so excruciating. It was so painful, and I'm curled. I'm huddled up. I'm curled. I'm holding on to my partner, and I'm just like rolling around, and I'm like it would just, it was like an exorcism. I can't describe it any other way. It was just like this pain that had to come out, and it was so intense, and it was like I was screaming and I was crying, and it felt amazing at the same time.
There's the process. She's safe enough in her own world with her partner to bring awareness to an experience of what she calls darkness. She can allow that darkness to process through her. She's allowing to rise. She's in interoceptive facets of it. She's moving through it. And she's feeling the catharticness of it. She's feeling the okayness of it. She's feeling the horror of it, but look at her capacity to allow it in her body.
Right? Because it was like all of that pain that I just pushed down for so long. And as soon as I connected with it, I really felt like I was that child again. And it just birthed through me. It just
the embodiment of the original pain.
Yeah, it was
experiencing it through the adult, but that was what the child felt.
Oh,
with a little bit of psychoeducation just to ground her, just to give her information. It was just a little bit of psychoeducation. So let me repeat what I said. Yeah. What she's saying phenomenologically, she's saying that the depth of this was like an exorcism, to be embodied to that experience. And I reflect and I say, yes, this is the experience. This is fundamentally the limbic energy of the child being experienced through the adult's body. At this point, I'm not prescriptive about what it is. I'm just holding her in the process, helping her understand what that process was, giving her psychoeducations to help her understand what was happening for her.
Oh, it was so incredible. And the pain of it, and this sense of, again, of being unlovable and not existing, and I don't exist without love, and love is all this stuff about love and loss, and I was just like, okay, I can see why I'm so fearful of connection, in a sense, or love, or that attack. Because when I don't, so what I'm trying to work through now is what that's about, really. Because I know where we are in the pattern. This is all relevant and it all makes sense, but
the very bottom of that pattern that you were petrified to go to, the anxiety was keeping you away from that dark place, that hypoarousal place that we had prior in the previous weeks.
Yeah.
And isn't it amazing? 5 weeks outside process, it doesn't matter. 5 weeks away from process. The process still alive in you.
Yes.
Even though you're not coming to session, the process is there. And how brave, and shows you the amount of work that you've done, that you were able to have capacity for that child. Allow it, express it, embody it, move through it.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible.
I mean,
so what I'm doing there is basically showing her how incredible she is, how brilliant she is, how she's been able to process that outside the room in safety and capacity. She's bringing it back to me now to try and make sense of it. The expression of it doesn't mean the letting go of it. That's important. The expression of it is not the release of it. The expression of it is the beginning of the process, not the end of it. The embodiment of it is the beginning of the process of healing it. It's not the end of it, but it's the first step in it. And she had capacity to do that outside the room. I didn't get a phone call. I didn't know until I came to session that she was able to live into that, experience it, hold it, bring it back to session, and want to process it. And the next 50 minutes is about the processing of this in relation to where she understands.
I'm really glad it happened, because in the moment, even though it was painful, it was like I gave myself full permission to just go there and just let it come. And it was like, I don't care about, because the only thing for me that was blocking that was other people's opinions and judgments of it,
and how they would see it, and how you might lose love if they saw the depth of that pain. And then it's seen by your partner.
Yeah. He's still here.
He's still here, yeah.
I know, and that's incredible because the connection since that, you know, I've been able to say to him for the first time in 4 years that we've been together that I trust him.
Wow.
And I've never been able to say that. And that feels like, you know, oh my God, I've said it. And it, you know, he's talking about, you know, things like getting engaged, and I'm like, wow, like, you know, because I've never been here with, you know, no marriage, no kids, no engagement, you know, it's like arm's length. So it's really scary, but going to that place and again being able to know that I do have capacity and I do have tolerance and I do have that understanding and I have support now.
What did she just say? Could she have described the process of SAPS any better? There it is. All of the work created that moment that allowed her to get in contact with what needed healed so that we could continue to do the work, the interceptive work of releasing her. What did you think of that process? What stood out for you? But there it is in action. What stood out for you in that? Did you see the entire SAPS process? The safety in her, the safety in the relationship, the acceptance of the help, the allowing of the embodiment. So that safety creates the awareness. Her sense of agency, Jane, yes, 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 this is so good. She's not running for me. She's not looking for me. She's processing. This is going to give her so much confidence in her capacity. But there it is. Yeah, I did this myself. I was here. I was helped. She allowed herself to be vulnerable. She allowed herself to go to the heart of the matter, to be knee deep in it. She allowed that awareness, and then she allowed that process. And that process was to be deeply, cathartically in the energy of what this was showing her, not afraid, incapacity. So that she could come out the other end and come to me and say, this is what I experienced. This is what I embody. She is no longer in her head. She's no longer trapped up here. She has now moved into a safer embodied state. And now we can begin, yes, therapeutic alliance, but now we can begin trauma reconsolidation. Prior to that point, trauma reconsolidation doesn't happen because it's not in embodied form. Did anybody notice I was grinning like a Cheshire cat? I was so delighted for it. Isn't it a gorgeous share, Carla? It's a beautiful share, really beautiful. That, my friends, is safe embodiment in action. That's, I mean, think about what that does. That does what was never done. What was never done for that child? There wasn't safety. There wasn't capacity. There wasn't regulation. There wasn't acceptance. It's life-changing, Luna. It's life-changing. Yes, she was never heard. She was never validated. It was never safe. She was never co-regulated. She never felt safe enough to be able to articulate herself, to be able to share. It's never safe to communicate what her internal experience is. We are undoing what was done. We are giving what was never given. When I am in glee at her big moment, I'm not in terror. I'm in glee. I'm like, yes, yes. I am mirroring what should have been given, which is complete and unconditional positive regard for her primary process, celebrating it. I am doing what was never done. I am giving what was never given. She is beginning to learn to co-regulate with me, but what's more important than that is that she's co-regulating with herself outside the room in a very safe way. Very powerful. That is safe embodiment and practice, and that took all of the skills that I'm sharing with you. That took all of the assessment. She was very difficult process. She was a very difficult client because she came, had I not had my assessments, I would have assumed that she was much more embodied than she was. Does that make sense, Steve? She's highly articulate, has all of the language, has all of the embodiment language, has all of the detail, has all of it, has all of the lingo, has all of the information, has all of the understanding, she's actually got a master's in psychotherapy. So she could give me all of the knowledge, all of it. I could have very easily, without the embodiment assessment, assumed that she had capacity. I could have very easily, without all of our understandings of her capability to be in her body, took her too far too fast. I could have very easily, but my assessments were able to slow this process down and realize, whilst she had all the language, whilst she had all the details, she didn't have capacity. And we needed to start from the start, which is very difficult for somebody like her, who's highly qualified, highly in 10 years of therapy. It's very difficult to be told we have the contract to start from the start. But that slowing down the process sped it up to there. And we are finished probably 2.5 years work, 2.5 years work of deep reconsolidation of trauma, 2 massive primary pain patterns. But we had to slow that way down to get to there. And had I not, we would have been stuck in process for another 2 years. And that's not fair on her. Any questions? Are you sharing? Yes, Mary. Are you sharing my excitement, my enthusiasm for the process? So let me recap. When we talk about safe embodiment, we talk about the assessments that are necessary to make sure we have done the correct work and built the correct levels of capacity. And when we use our assessments, not only do we understand what tools we need for reunification or unity work, but we know what safety we need. We know what resourcing we need. We know how to build interventions around this client to move them along to where they want to be moved to in line with them. We aren't doing the heavy lifting. Did anybody notice in the 2 examples how little interventions I made or how little I talked? She's doing the heavy lifting. I'm not. She's doing the heavy lifting outside the room. Do you know what that feels like? Feels good not to have to do the heavy lifting, guys. Sometimes we do, but it feels good not to do the heavy lifting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week and be burnt out and exhausted because you don't have a framework. So, any questions on that before we move? Did I do a good enough job of taking you through that process? Did I do a good enough job at demoing it? Did I do a good enough job of describing it? Do you feel better? Perfect, Pamela. Thank you. Okay. All right. Does anybody need anything clarified? Okay, brilliant. All right. Very clear. Good, Jane. I hope I have won the right. Yes, I love the demos. Aren't they brilliant, Luna? So I hope, thank you, Janice, thank you. I hope that I have won the right to invite you to work with me, okay? So we have this safe embodiment process. We have this safe embodiment course. I hate using the word course because it's much more than a course. It is this entire process, from start to finish. So it's safe embodiment, it's everything that I have mentioned, it's all your assessments, it's your primary pain, your secondary pain identifications. So I teach it to you and then I show you how to spot it and I show you how to work it and I show you how to assess for it so that you're not embodying too quickly and so that you can spot primary pain and secondary pain and spot the differentiation in the room. We then take the next assessment. We take stages of process, we take interception, we take all those incredible pieces. Not only we teach you the assessments, but I teach you the theory and the practice. I then take all of the safety skills, all of the unity skills, and build this entire process that you get to not only learn theoretically, experientially, but we do it in workshop format. We do it in live workshops, me and you in a live workshop, and all of that material through a case study. And we integrate the material. We integrate all of the material in a way that it is alive inside you personally and professionally. The course itself is hybrid learning in this gorgeous format, but the workshops that sit with a hybrid learning are live taught. So you can go through this course at your own speed. If you want to go through it at lightning speed, you can do that. If you want to take time and go through it, you can do that. You can come to as many workshops as you want. I don't care. We have workshops for each module to integrate each module. If you want to attend 5 workshops for module 1, attend 5 workshops for module 1. It's yours to do with phenomenologically as you will. If you like to learn slow and steady and you like to repeat the module and repeat the workshops, do that. If you're a fast starter, not one is better than the other, then you just move through the modules, go to the workshops, move through the modules, go to the workshops. And at the end of it, you will come out with the SAPS process. You will have a full SAPS process in terms of skill, and in terms of assessment, and in terms of your own internal process. And all of it is done through these case studies that we integrate the material through. The case studies are different. They present different clients with different stages of process, with different problems, with different difficulties. So you get this dearth of experience through the material. The course is, I'm just going to show you the details of the course. This is my last share. Obviously, everything that I've shared here in terms of documents is all available. I'm really bad at the detail of this. Let that be known. There's lots of stuff inside it for any of my people that like the details. There's lots of stuff inside the course, like handouts and research papers and documentation and demo videos and all of that you can download and keep on your own in your own academy. So that's all there too. So let me just show you the breakdown of it, because I need a little bit of, here we go. And let me show you prices and stuff as well. We've made it really affordable. Okay, so embodiment assessment tools, safety assessment tools, sample contracts, resourcing plans, comprehensive list of the practice of embodiment skills, comprehensive understanding of practice of safety skills, deeper embodiment tools. If you are trauma working, then you'll need that, interoceptive tools, and all of the practical application of all the aspects and all the experiential application, which tends to happen in the workshops. We've gone through all of that. You don't need to know. So it's 5 live workshops for 5 modules. There's only 10 hours of pre-recorded theory, so it's not that heavy. The workshops do most of the heavy lifting. So that's really important. Module 1 is an understanding of embodiment. Module 2, which is really about primary and secondary and the assessment of unity and the reasons for all that primary pain in secondary. Embodiment tools of deep and anti-trauma. The wisdom of disembodiment, how do you work with disembodiment? What's the tools? What's the safety tools? What's the techniques? Safety tools across all areas and unity tools across all areas. So you get the whole, everything that I've talked about here. There are bonus materials, the negotiation of pain, the negotiation of self. There's loads of bonus stuff in it. You can go through it as and when you want, in whatever order that you want, and that is the investment of the program. Some of you are already enrolled, I know that, which is brilliant. So it's the same program that you're enrolled in. If you're enrolled in Safe Embodiment and you were here last week and you're already a client, then this is not a different course at all. So Paulina, Liz, you guys, and I can't see if there's anybody else here that is already enrolled. This is the same course that you're already enrolled in. Sometimes there can be confusion. So that is the investment. We, as I said, look, we've tried to make it as accessible as possible. Really, really accessible. We even are doing a 2-payment process for it, because once you have the foundation of this right, then everything else will come. So yeah, if you can bear working with me in workshop form and learning these skills and learning to apply them to yourself, then I absolutely invite you. I would love to see you on the inside of the program. If you have any questions whatsoever about the detail, Leona, you know what I'm bad about this. Am I missing anything? That's euros and US price. Any of our Australian friends, I'm sorry, we don't have the Australian dollars. Leona, anything that I'm missing, my dear?
No, I think you've covered everything. Just the date maybe for the first workshop for module 1, if anybody did want to get started straight away. The first workshop for module 1 is coming up really soon on the 24th of September. And then the next one then is the 29th of October. I think that's everything.
So basically how it works is you get this long list of workshops and you just pick the date that suits you. That's it. You sign up now, and what happens is, say if you signed up tonight, you get access to the material tonight, so you can start working on it tonight. And then you just come along to your workshops. The workshops are as and when you require. Again, if you want to do module 1 and do workshop 1 and say, I want to go back and do module 1 again and do another workshop, you can do that. If there's somebody in our group, another Mary, in this program, and I think she goes to every workshop. And she's done the workshops for herself, and then she does her workshops for her clients. So she's got the dual use out of it really well. You can do this as and when you want. There is no restrictions on how many workshops or how many times, and there's no restriction on the material. So it's not like you have a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks to get through it. You have a lifetime access to it, and you can come and go from the workshops as and when you want. We've tried to make it as accessible as possible, simply because we need as many practitioners as we can. There's that bonus, and that bonus is there for a short period of time, just so that we can encourage you to join us. That's the long and short of it. All workshops are recorded, Martina. Thank you. Thanks a million, Siobhan. I appreciate it. All are recorded, all are uploaded. So you've one academy that you just go to the academy and learn from that, learn all your material, all your recorded material, and all your workshops. And Leona is always on hand to help you. Emma, can I explain the difference between this course and the year-long one I offer? So the year-long one that you're talking about is what we call our signature program. So it's in core level 2. That program you can't get onto until you do level 1. And this is a little precursor to level 1. Does that explain it? Level 2, you need safe embodiment and you need clearing level 1, because you can't do level 2, because fundamentally what level 2 is, if you remember the demo in Sadie, level 2 is working in the heart of that primary pain. You have to learn how to access that, how to get there, how to build safe embodiment before you would ever do any of that work. And so we insist that level 2 have all of that, all of the background to that, which is why we make this so accessible to get started. Does that make sense, Emma? Thank you. All right. Any questions whatsoever? I think there's an email waiting for you for all the details of the course. Reach out if you have any questions. Leona will answer any questions that you have. John, I'm delighted. Oh, I don't know whether to say commiserations for returning as a counsellor or congratulations. Don't know which one yet. We'll not know till you get on, John. I'm only joking. I'm only joking. Okay, so I hope as many of you join us as possible. you will get a notification about your course in your email. Any questions, reach out. Anything, nothing's too small, nothing's too big. Appreciate it, Jennifer. I'm delighted to see you again. Good, and I hope to see you on the other side of this course. Good, Emma. I will chat to everybody soon. Brilliant, and I hope that the demos did you the world of good tonight, because I know that they did me the world of good. And yeah, one more lasting thing, there's just a limited time on that price because of the live element of it. So if you do want to get started, let us know as soon as possible. And I might see you all very soon if you can bear me for more integration and more work. Tina, it was good to see your face. I haven't seen you for ages. See you later. Okay, good night. God bless. See you all soon. All right, take care, everybody. Bye-bye. 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 Good, Mary. Good. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.